Welcome back from that short commercial break, and at this very point in time, we are going into the press review as we go through the top news stories that are making headlines into the world, and of course Uganda also at large in the newspapers. And of course with me, as always, I have the New Vision first, and I'm going to review that first. But firstly, of course, here we see the sad news as the London Bridge collapses. It was really quite traumatic. It happened yesterday at around 8:30, and it was really very sad globally, not only locally. Remember, this is very significant to Uganda's economy. To Uganda's standing, let me say that, because Uganda is a colony of Britain. And of course, the Queen Elizabeth dies after serving a 70-year reign that's in London. Of course, she came to the throne when she was 25. That was in 1952. So you can calculate that till this year, that comes back to 70 years of reign. Queen Elizabeth II, the longest serving monarch in British history and an icon instantly recognizable to billions of people around the world, died yesterday. And she was 96 years of age, you can imagine that. Buckingham Palace announced her death in a short statement, triggering 10 days of national mourning and outpouring of tributes for her long life. The Queen died peacefully at, of course, Balmoral. That was last afternoon. Buckingham Palace said the statement at 6:30 p.m. That's in Greenwich Mean Time, and of course the time zones are different. The King and the Queen consort will remain at the Balmoral this evening and will return to London. That's tomorrow. And of course, as we go further to this report, the eldest of her 4 children, that's Charles, Prince of Wales, who is 73 and is the oldest heir apparent in the British history, becomes the king immediately. The Queen's death came after the palace announced on Thursday that doctors were concerned for her health and recommended she stayed under the medical supervision right there. And of course, all our children, that's Charles, Princess, and 72, Prince Andrew, and of course that one is 62 years, and Prime Edward, 58, flocked to a Scottish Highland retreat that was in Balmoral, and of course to go and mourn the death of their beloved mother. That's quite very sad, and of course we send our condolences to the family of the Queen right there regarding those matters. And now let me, still in the New Vision, I'm going to look at Museveni. President Yoweri Museveni commissions 400 million housing project, and of course the report says here, yesterday President Yoweri Museveni commissioned the $72 million that Solana Lifestyle and the Residences Housing Estate built by the National Social Security Fund. The entire NSSF Lubawa housing project will have 2,740 housing units, including villas, townhouses, bungalows, and apartments in Lubawa, and that's in Entebbe. And of course, NSSF Managing Director, that's Richard Byarugaba, said the project has a cost estimated at 400 million. That's 400 million US dollars. During the event, the president appealed to Ugandans to understand the importance of raising a joint and collective that's capital, which he said was the only way society can undertake a big project. And he added that Ugandans need to grow, develop the culture of growing, and of course, that's growing joint capital to be able to do big ventures, citing the NSSF, which has undertaken big projects that's countrywide over time, and because of the collective savings from the Ugandan workers right there. So that was something very interesting, and now Ugandans will be able to actually get housing at quite affordable rates. And I put New Vision aside, and now I cross over to the Daily Monitor. And what's really making so headlines, it's very good news for all of you that are into the content creation industry, or what I can call the entertainment industry, as the House passes the local content bill to spur business. Parliament has adopted the National Local Content Bill, that's 2022, which rejects subcontracting projects to eliminate middlemen who exploit such arrangements. In the court, in a statement made, a person who engages in an activity to which this act applies shall not be a subcontract or any contract or works contracted or subcontracted to it under this act, clause 13. That's of the bill. That's what it reads right there. So when we talk about sparring business, the local content bill, and of course in Uganda we've been having quite a lot of issues regarding copyright, and you invent something but you don't have ownership and right over your content, and of course you find that the middlemen that come into that perspective in this incidence actually take more money than what you're supposed to take, and this is going to be very revolutionary in regards to sparring business for those that are creating local content. And of course, still as I go further here, Mr. Patrick Nsamba, the mover of the bill, that's the MP Cassandra North, defended the clause before Parliament on Tuesday after the chairperson of the Finance Committee, Mr. Kefa Chiwanuka, that's Chiboga East MP, attempted to persuade the House to delete it. And of course, in the court, it says, we decided the middlemen should not take over. So you, the original owner of that, should be liable to actually get a revenue from your product so that you can maximize your revenue. And I put the Daily Monitor aside. And now let's get into the international news. We start with Nigeria, and we are looking at the economy of Nigeria, and as 437,000 barrels of oil stolen on a daily basis by the criminals in Nigeria. An average of about 437,000 barrels of oil is stolen on a daily basis by the criminals. That's in Nigeria, according to the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. According to the Premium Times data analysis, that's between January and July, Africa's biggest oil producer lost an average of about 437 barrels of oil on a daily basis to criminal entities and individuals at the same time who illicitly trap pipelines on onshore and offshore into the Niger Delta region. Remember, Nigeria is a country that has been having quite a number of crises, and of course a majority of the criminal groups use such incidences to exploit the nation, and of course take away the very reliable resources that are very relevant to the economic growth and development of this country. And of course, as we continue with this report, Group Managing Director, that's NNPCL, that's Mulay Chari, last week blamed a section that's of Nigerian society for complicity that has led to loss of thousands of dollars in the oil sector, undermining of the country's oil production. Nigeria recorded a lower production in the first 7 months of the year. In January, the production stood at 1.4 million barrels per day, but as of July, the production went lower. That's to 1.1 million barrels a day. So the production keeps on lowering as the months keep on going due to excess theft by the different criminal groups. The pipeline fires are commonplace in Nigeria, in part because of poor maintenance, but also because of thieves who vandalize the pipelines to siphon off petrol and sell it off onto the black market. Remember, the world is undergoing a global crisis in regarding to fuel, and majority of the people are using this as a chance to actually smuggle fuel on the black market. And of course, this is a very good example that we see in Nigeria right here. And as we continue with this report, crude oil is tapped from a wave of pipelines owned by major oil companies and refined into products in that's the market shift tanks. And of course, as I continue, according to the industry sources, Nigeria loses 200,000 that's barrels of crude oil on thieves, vandals, and illegal refining operators daily. Most people in the Niger Delta live in poverty, even though the country is the biggest oil producing continent with an output of about 2 million barrels per day. Africa's largest oil producer has drawn only a small fraction of global petroleum investments to its industry, long troubled by the corruption, of course, inefficiency, high production costs, and of also security problems. Nigeria has had quite a number of insecurities, and recently, as we know, the terror group that used to really cause a lot of havoc and damaging the economy, that's the Boko Haram, and majority of these people could actually attack these oil wells and get this oil by force, and of course smuggle it to the black market to sell it to at cheaper prices. These losses came at a time when Nigeria passed a fuel subsidy that's in April, that was this year, but some have been upset by the steps to delegate the end and costly interventions. As I wind up the Nigerian report, international lenders have for long urged Nigeria to ditch them, and the authorities came under, of course, fresh pressure as they scrambled this year to secure billions in emergency funding to plug the budget. And that's the issue regarding Nigeria facing a crisis as oil is being stolen on a daily basis by the different criminal groups, and it's sold on black market. And you know, selling on black market means you're selling it cheaply, and that means the country is going to be losing quite enormous amounts of revenue. And now that's it for the Nigerian economy. And now let's get into Tunisia. That's in the north of Africa, of course, an Arab country there. And we are looking at Tunisia food producers, and Tunisia food makers stabbed for supplies amid the crisis. The report says cash-strapped Tunisia is facing death of imported foodstuffs from dairy products to coffee, forcing informal rationing of supermarkets and threatening some food and beverage companies. For weeks now, consumers and businesses have been yet struggling to find essentials that is such as sugar, flour, and cooking oil. Radina Kamon, CEO of the pastry chain that's Godamise, says she is struggling to source key ingredients, while those that are available have surged in price. With 27, she says, with 27 branches across the country, he has had to raise its prices, and that's twice this year. The report still further says the CEO describes the situation as the worst crisis since business was founded in 1976, and blames the state for failing to communicate efficiently. In March, ratings agency that's Fitch downgraded Tunisia's credit rating to CCC, citing political uncertainty and gaping budget deficits. Then since then, many international suppliers have stopped that's trusting Tunisia and demanding cash-up fund that's for products and transport. As I continue with this report, as the Social Affairs Ministry blames disrupted supply chains and price hikes on commodities and transport worldwide, and largely due to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Tunisia has been negotiating for months for a bailout loan likely worth of $2 billion from the International Monetary Fund, which is expected to demand the painful economic reforms in return. And of course, you can see economic hardships right there into the different African countries right there. And I'm going to wind up the international news definitely with the British Treasury, as here we see that the British-born Ghanaian Kwasi, that's Kwarteng, appointed as UK's first black finance minister. This is something so remarkable into the history. Kwasi Kwarteng, 47, is taking over as head of the British Treasury with the onerous task of trying to pull the UK out of a serious cost of living crisis without plugging in the public finances into the abyss. lately UK has really been undergoing quite a heavy crisis. And actually, if you trade on currencies on the forex trade, you realize that the great British pound has been deteriorating greatly against other currencies such as the dollar and of course the euro and many other currencies. So this is very key, and of course this has a very strong political tie, because recently we've seen Britain has been having a series there has been a series of changing leadership in all positions, and of course that has a great impact onto the economy. Remember, whenever you change leadership, there are quite a lot of resources that get involved in terms of putting the nation together to ensure that everything gets back to normal. In a statement here, he says there is a lot of pressure on Kwasi Kwarteng as the political longevity of the new Prime Minister, that's Liz Truss, will be intimately tied to her performance, says Tony Travers, professor at the London School of Economics, interviewed by AFP. The enthusiastic Brexit supporter and Ali Bakar of Miss Truss, whom he is a longtime friend and neighbor in the country's first black, that's Chancellor of the Exchequer. He takes over from Nadim Zahawi, a Iraqi-born Kurd, who himself succeeded Rishi Sunak, the Indian origin, and Sajid Javid with Pakistan roots, embodying a more inclusive face of the Conservative Party. As we can see, there have been people that are changing, and of course from other nationalities, not necessarily that they have been Britain. The son of Ghanaian immigrants who came to the UK in the 1960s. I remember actually the 1960s, that's when Ghana got independence. Was it 1960s? No, that was 1950. Okay, that's when majority of the British colonies got independence, and of course there were favors that were being given as these nations gave the colonies independence. Some of the people were actually able to fly away from the African countries to those countries to get more education, and these are the elites we see right now that are taking over these positions. It was all a process. They got involved into the system right there. Of course, the son of the Ghanaian immigrants who came to the UK, like I said, in the 1960s, the former Minister for Enterprise, Industry and Energy, is also a true liberal and advocate for low taxes and such, and a free market economy at the same time. Given his background in the Conservative Party, Mr. Kwarteng looks in many ways like a sort of that's a militant Thatcherite, says Tony Travers, referring to the former ultra-liberal Prime Minister, that's Margaret Thatcher. The new Finance Minister co-authored a book, Britannia Unchained, in 2012 with other Conservatives, including Liz Truss, which advocated a smaller state and called British workers the worst. Oh, the word is quite heavy here. I won't mention that word. The Prime Minister made waves during her campaign by again referring to a supposed lack of work ethic that's in Britain. Mr. Kwarteng will implement the tax cuts promised by Liz Truss. They will put money back into people's pockets and businesses to revive an economy on the brink of the recession, he said in an opt in the Financial that's Times today. And you see, they're going to be working hand in hand with the current British Prime Minister, and of course he implements what the command is given from above to ensure that Britain's financial economic standing comes back. We know the Great Britain to be really a very strong financial powerhouse. And that's it for the international news, and let's get into the business quotes and tips. But firstly, let's take a look at the business tips of the day. And the business tip of the day, of course, I'm going to start with, it says, understand what motivates your customers. Understand what motivates your customers to buy. And when we go through this, he says, invest in time to learn what motivates your customers, of course, to buy. Take the time to know their needs, challenges, concerns, and fears. Serve them fast, and your interest will be served in turn. And of course, when we talk about this, I remember I was talking to someone last time, and we're talking about offering a service, and I told him, why are you giving it out this cheap? He told me, I care about my customers first. I mind about maximizing sales before just making money from a single sale. So that's very important. That's something that you need to put into consideration. Of course, I know you invest because you want to get the money, but remember, selling is a psychology, is a science. What's going to make you have a number of people to be loyal to your brand is going to come as a result of how you relate to them. Because when they look at your brand, they feel the security and the certainty simply because you care about their interests. That's the psychological aspect that's of making sales right there. Make research about who your consumers are, get to understand them. Actually, some businesses, what they do before they put out a product on the market to officially really sell it there, they first do what we call a feasibility study. And in this feasibility study, they do sample tests. They are going to distribute this product for free to the people right there and get their views, what can be corrected right there. Why? Because they mind about the customers. And of course, when they tell you what to improve, you go back, improve that, and at the end of the day, you're going to produce excellency on the market. And now, let's wind it up with the business quote of the day. And the business quote of the day says, of course, before I mention the quote, it was written by Milton Bell. Milton Bell right there. He says, if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. Wow, that's so interesting right there. If you've heard a statement called self-made, of course, there are these individuals in the world that say, I'm self-made. You've heard this quite often. And I happen to listen to a lot of music, and of course, rap music, and they talk about self-made. In other words, opportunities might never find you right there. You could be striving for something. Let me give an example. Probably you could be pursuing a career in something, and perhaps you really think, and probably time has gone and you feel like you're really good into this career you're trying to establish, but opportunities have not yet come your way. Build a door, create an opportunity yourself, invest, employ yourself, and definitely you're going to be really out there. A good example I normally give, I always refer to international stars. I like, when you follow Jay-Z's biography, he used to try to get record labels to distribute his music so that he can make money, but nothing happened. Guess what? In 1996, he comes up and opens up his own record label, that's the Rockefeller, which has made him a billionaire till this day. He built the door. The door wasn't there, but he made one for himself. So this applies to any person out there. You are pursuing a career, it could be in anything, and you're trying to wait for people to look, to search you, to spot you. You could be trying to build a career in media, perhaps, and you try to apply in so many media houses and probably not given attention. Create your own door. Go open up a YouTube account, create your own media channel. That way you're going to be recognized. And of course, if you have the substance, definitely you will be spotted. And that's it for this segment. Let's get into a short commercial break. We return with the Coffee Court. Good morning.